Hello and welcome back to VHS Era. Today I am joined by a man named Lewis Robinson for what is the first time I'm covering a compilation tape rather than the VHS for a movie where the guest didn't have some, shall we say, working relationship to it. Because first time I did it, I had a Simpsons writer join me for a Simpsons compilation tape. Power Rangers, I had someone who worked on the marketing of Power Rangers for a compilation tape. But today's guest, Lewis Robinson, has not worked on or had anything to do with South Park in any way. Lewis, can you please introduce yourself to the audience and say what you do for a
Okay.
living?
Oh, for a living. Well, I do many things for a living. However, right now, since like February 11th, I've been running Church of Real Talk, which is like non-denominational. It actually just speaks to positivity, motivation, and inspiring others. In fact, I have a podcast, Path to Purpose, that it's going to be gangbusters this year. But I'm glad to be on your podcast.
Well,
Been a while since I It's been a while since I watched The Simpsons.
well,
I
we're
mean,
not,
in South Park. I'm sorry.
yes. Well, yeah, it's fine. I get titles mixed up all the time. But did you used to like South Park when you were younger?
Not so much when I was younger because I'm old now. I used to watch it with my twin boys. They loved it. In fact, one day when it was on Comedy Central, that's how long ago I'm talking. They had like a Thanksgiving thing, and we like binge watched it all day for Thanksgiving. So they love it.
All right, so you were kind of more indifferent to it. Well, your sons loved it.
They loved it. I started like Kenny. I think I mean, Cartman was kind of cool because he was like in your face, no regrets, and he just did what he had to do. But Kenny was my guy, I think. The bugs and stuff inside of him all the time.
Yeah. But anyway, we are going to look at an old compilation tape, as I said, because Comedy Central, noticing South Park's popularity, released several VHS volumes of South Park that are focused on different episodes. Now, Lewis, I know that, because you are very heavily involved in the church and have a church themed podcast,
Mhm.
we will try to keep this podcast as clean as possible. Can't always say the same for the content we're going to be watching, but when it comes to the discussion of the content,
Yes, yes, yes.
I will try to keep it as clean as we possibly can.
I appreciate you.
Yes, but we will see if that's even possible as we watch South Park, Volume 1. So things open up with what I think is a pretty well, I like the music for the logo. Admittedly, the CGI is very much of its time, but it's an okay logo to start things off with. I know Rhino Video was like a distribution company back then. I don't know if they're still a thing today, if the logo has at all updated with the times, but it's a nifty little production logo.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. You can definitely tell the time period that it definitely came from. Things have advanced so much. But I think, and if my memory serves me right, I think the show still stands, whether you watch episode one or what is it, like 14 years now?
Yeah, no, South Park came out in the late 90s, so
Yeah,
like
it's been a while.
1997. So they've got a lot, but I'm not talking about the show. I'm talking about the logo we just watched.
Right, right, right. The logo, like I said, it's like you said, it's from that time period. Rhino, I think they did music and everything as far as distribution. Um, but yeah, I mean, the logo, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, if I had that logo, I might, I might still run it. I don't know. I might still run it, but it does seem a little ancient compared to today's logos and logo creation tools that they have out there right now.
Yeah, actually, it's funny. So have you ever heard of Orion Pictures?
Yes, yes, I
Okay,
have.
so as you know, they went bankrupt in the 90s, but they think they were like they've been brought back. They've been bought back in I think like the last 10 years. I was actually an extra in a movie they distributed. We'll
Oh,
never
cool.
have Paris. But it was funny at first because when they were first brought back, they
Mhm.
were using the old logo. So it was kind of weird to see this logo that was clearly from the 80s in a more recent movie, but now that they're back, they've been back for like I think the last like 10 years.
Mhm.
Um, they have updated their logo a bit to be more with the times, and I don't know again if Rhino is still distributing videos or if they're just more focusing on music or if they're even a company anymore. Um, but I do kind of wonder now, if they're still operating, if
Yeah,
if they're using a new logo or if they're using the old logo.
I got to look that up because years ago I was a DJ and I remember a lot. They distributed a lot of records, especially house music, some hip hop titles and stuff like that. So they were the company in their time. They touched a little bit of everything.
Okay, so after watching a logo that is admittedly of its time, but at least has some effort put into it, it is funny seeing the old Comedy Central logo. And that's a logo I do know, at
Mhm.
least was updated. I haven't really paid attention at all to Comedy Central, except that in my previous gym it was playing sometimes, and I
Mhm.
looked it up and it's pretty much become a rerun channel. I mean, it already kind of was since inception, but like now it's pretty much reruns and The Daily Show and
Mhm.
sometimes South Park. But even then, Matt and Trey really just focus more on the specials than making new episodes. So it's pretty much become an entirely rerun channel with The Daily Show. Um, but yeah, it is still crazy to see the old 90s Comedy Central logo and seeing how it's changed. And they didn't put any music, they just kind of flashed it. And that was it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Comedy Central, I think. I remember the beginning years of Comedy Central. They did have a couple of shows. They've always, like you said, always have been kind of reruns, the things that made you laugh, the things that you remembered. Um, but they had Dave Chappelle. That was like their headliner. The Daily Show, been watching that for years. Love that. Um, but yeah, I think Comedy Central really needs to have who owns them now? Do you know by chance?
I
I
don't
thought it was
know.
bought up by Paramount or something.
Yeah, I don't know, but I feel like their last big hit was Key and Peele.
Yes.
And that was like 12 years ago.
Yeah, I was a huge fan of Key and Peele. Who was that lady that was on it? I know we're supposed to be talking about South Park.
No, no, it's
She
fine.
she did
Uh,
like 4 seasons with them. She was funny the first three. Um,
Um,
the name escapes me. Blonde hair, kind of
yeah,
heavy.
I know who you're talking about, but I'm not sure what her name is either. But
Yeah.
but yeah, it's like I don't know, it's like Comedy Central's still around, but it almost feels like from what I know of it now, and again, I'll be honest, I haven't really been paying attention to cable TV in general. I pretty much get all my entertainment from streaming now. Um, but from what little I know, it really has just become a rerun channel. And they haven't really had, and like Key and Peele was like their last big hit, and that was a decade ago.
Hmm. Yep. Wait, they're still doing South Park though, correct?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
but like hit here and there when Matt and Trey feel like it.
Yeah, I guess at this stage of the game, I mean, with the global love of the characters of South Park, they can now, what, they've got two movies under their belt as well?
Oh, one movie and a bunch of like one
Extend-
theatrically released movie and like a bunch of like made for streaming movies.
Okay, okay. So they're
And
still kicking, basically.
yeah, and but honestly, I guess I will say that, the way they do it, pretty much just more focusing on the movies and, just doing episodes when they feel like it is
Yeah,
preferable to like I'll be honest, like nowadays, how Simpsons and Family Guy have also been running for decades now, and I don't regularly watch either anymore. But when I do catch a new episode, sometimes it gets the feeling that they're kind of just going through the motions. Um,
I know exactly what you're talking about. They're just
yeah,
putting content what they feel that the audience expects and not putting any work into it. Almost like the Kanye West episode. I love that episode. That's like my favorite. With the fish things. I don't know if you remember that one. That was like one of my favorite episodes, and they had R.
yeah,
Kelly and everything else. They don't do stuff like that anymore. It's not. I think they used to do episodes like basically when they first started. It was like kind of in tune with what was happening in the news.
yeah.
Um, they don't do that anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know, I guess I kind of respect that, they're just kind of following their creative muse rather than just making episodes because the network wants them to.
Okay.
That's just what I'm saying.
At first glance, the small town of South Park seems no different than any other. But deep beneath the surface of this mountain hamlet, there are secrets of passion.
Dan wants to kiss when you taste a burger. Shut up, feta!
Secrets of visitors.
My little brother's been abducted by aliens. It's true. Ask Carbon. They gave him an anal probe. that's a little joke.
Secrets of conspiracy.
And so you see, Simon and Simon were not brothers in real life, only on television.
Secrets of murder.
I did it! I did it! I finally killed something!
South Park's children aren't keeping their secrets, and this small town is finding out more than it bargained for.
What the hell was that?
South Park, the unkept secret. If you don't get Comedy Central, you don't get South Park.
I'm gonna be on television.
Call your cable operator or visit our website.
In our very first preview, we just basically get a preview for the show.
Mhm.
And it's an okay preview. It's kind of like a typical like jokey 90s trailer, like we're gonna make it sound like it's like this show is something completely different than it is. Like we're making it seem like it's this mysterious drama, but then we're cutting to like cutting to all these crass, raunchy things. And I remember that being kind of typical 90s marketing humor. Um, but it's kind of a typical again, it's a fairly typical 90s marketing ad. I guess I'll just give them um credit for not for like committing to the bit and keeping like the dramatic music throughout the whole preview rather than like having a record scratch somewhere and being like we're like no, we're just kidding. South Park's nothing like this. I'll give them credit for that. But it's a fairly typical 90s ad.
Yeah. I love the call to action at the end. I love that that jumped out at me. I don't think it's like they're really pushing like if you don't have Comedy Central, you need to call your cable company right now. I love the build up with the secrets, being a big conspiracy theory fan myself. I love the build up with the secrets what the people were doing. If I had never watched South Park ever, and I saw a commercial like that back in the day, I probably would be like, do we have Comedy Central? You know, I need to see what's going on here.
Yeah, it was ex smart, because back then, like, not everyone had cable and not everyone had Comedy Central. I remember when I was a kid in the late 90s moving to the States, when we first got cable, it was like, oh, great, now we have Nickelodeon. Now we have Disney Channel, et cetera, et cetera. Now I can watch all these shows my peers are telling me are great and being like
Mhm.
excited for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember like even back in the late 90s,
Mhm.
um, cable was still a big deal for some people.
Yeah. 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 You had to have cable in your house. You felt like you was missing something until a few months later you noticed that you saw the same things over and over and over again. What would be on one, I guess it would be on Comedy Central, then it would be on TBS. You know, it was just like a constant rehashing and recircling of different things. But one thing that I can give Comedy Central was they did for the first few years, if I remember correctly, they kept South Park there, you know, except for their movies and stuff like that. But they kept South Park there. And that's why I love that call to action because that was, you know, that was awesome. It made you think, hey, am I missing out on something here? Is this the show that everybody is talking about? You know, that's just old man thought.
Yeah, though I will also remember like, even when you had cable, if you didn't have all the channels, you still kind of felt like you were missing out. Like HBO, like it would be on the ch channel guide when I was a teen. I was like, oh, I want to see that movie, but I don't have HBO. But then, and then
I got HBO to watch True Blood.
yeah.
I didn't have HBO, but there were certain shows, just like how South Park was for Comedy Central. There were certain shows that were so much in the pop culture world that if you, well, in my case, I was going to work, you know, people would discuss it. And then after a few times, say, hey, listen, what's this all about? You know, and I think South Park did that because I think since it was done in that cartoon like, and it hasn't changed that much in years, but since it was done in that cartoon like way, you would think it was made for kids, but it was actually an adult comedy.
Yeah. But yeah, like it was sort of like there were like adult animated shows, but
Mhm.
like South Park was kind of like the first to be like re first one at least in a while to like be really raunchy.
Yeah, they
Like
pushed the limits.
yeah, like the adult comedies, beforehand, like they would have sex jokes and cursing here and there,
Hmm.
but they would still be on the PG-13 side of things.
Hmm.
Especially because they weren't on cable TV. They were like on the big
Ox. Yeah,
networks. They were like Fox,
yeah.
ABC, NBC, etc. So they could only get away with so much.
Right, right.
Even Fox, which used to market itself as we're the edgy one of the big five networks. It's like even then they still had to only be so edgy.
Yeah, yeah. They
Um,
stayed the propaganda kings. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, no, no,
Fox.
you're right. Yeah, but even then, as I said, even then, like it's just it's just so funny, looking back, looking at this trailer, being like, you have to get cable, and also looking back at South Park, it was like the first one to really sort of push the limits on like just on like adult animation in television, not necessarily movies.
Right, right, right.
Like if you look at some of Ralph Bakshi's movies, they make some of them make South Park look like Barney. Um, but but also it's just funny looking back nowadays. Like cable TV used to be such a big deal, but with streaming, it's like now you've got all most of your favorite shows on your fingertips. I mean, there's still problems there, like what streaming services to get, because if you get all of them, you'll still be paying way too much. And sometimes there are shows that aren't available on every streaming service, and you gotta rent them on Amazon or God forbid, see if someone uploaded episodes to YouTube.
Mhm.
Um, but so like there's still sort of problems, but it is just funny looking back how things have just changed in the last 25 years when it comes to accessing TV shows.
So, you're a big fan of Comedy Central's animated hit show, South Park.
Kickers.
Well, next time you tune in, why not stick around and check out some of our other great original programming? Like every Monday night starting June 15th, it's our award-winning show, Dr. Kat's Professional Therapist, a highly trained shrink who tends to the neurotic minds of today's hottest comedians.
So you blame yourself for a lack of a romance in your life?
I mean, when it comes to sex and stuff, I totally, whenever anyone spends the night at my house, come 2 a.m., I'm like a bartender. It's like, all right, people, wrap it up. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
I watch the Weather Channel constantly.
Mm-hmm.
It's very soothing, but it's really, these guys are too excited about it. And they're saying the historic winter of '96.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you'll be able to tell your children and your grandchildren about it. Why, yeah, I can't wait for that. You know, there's nothing that kids love better than weather stories from old people. Grandpa, tell us again about the time it was cold. Oh, well, yeah. Grandmother and I had to wear hats.
Okay, everybody, find your hiding places. Come on, hurry! Hurry up!
And premiering Monday nights on June 15th, it's our newly anticipated animated series, Bob and Margaret, featuring the ordinary lives of an eccentric married couple and their attempts to change their mundane world.
Oh,
Does it ever bother you that we never had children?
come on, let's sit in the living room.
I don't know, maybe I should get out of dentistry altogether. I mean, hardly anyone flosses anymore. What's the point?
Oh, that's nice. I think there's something funny on TV.
I should get into something more exciting, like ophthalmology.
Plus, weeknights at 11, it's The Daily Show, where anchor Craig Kilborn and his team of correspondents put their own satirical spin on today's headlines.
The tapes reportedly imply Lewinsky had a year-and-a-half affair with Clinton. The president fired back, "That's impossible. I would have become bored and cheated on her after 6 months." Tops.
While still managing to score some inside scoop from Hollywood's hottest stars.
Armageddon, we're the last 2 people on the face of the earth. The human race depends on us. Would you at least consider it?
So, don't miss out on Comedy Central's great original programming. Trust us. After all, you did buy this South Park tape, didn't you?
That was awesome. Yeah.
So we get an ad for pretty much all of Comedy Central's newest shows at the time. It's kind of it's manipulative but smart. To basically go, hey, you like South Park, don't you?
Mhm.
Well, watch Comedy Central for all these new shows. Like it's like, okay, they knew that, South Park was their biggest hit at the time. So it's like use it to like, promote their new shows and just like do it all in succession. Like that's smart, even if you were just expecting all South Park all the time on this VHS. That being said, when it comes to this ad, the shows themselves were looked a bit hit and miss. I did think it was kind of funny that for the Dr. Katz ad, they paired Den I mean the Dr. Katz show looks kind of amusing. Okay, like the animation is very squiggly. I can see why they might turn off some people, but you know, it seems like the stand-up the stand-up, if they get someone funny, could help move that show along. Though I will say with the example of Jon Stewart, I was thinking, wait, that's what his stand-up was like? Because that particular joke didn't wasn't that
Yeah.
funny. Um, I did think it was kind of funny. The actually funniest thing on the Dr. Katz segment is that they paired the shot of Dennis Leary with the
Mhm.
shot of Ray Romano, not just because they were in an entire franchise together that was like what had like 5, 6 movies, but they were recently on the show No Good Deed, which I just finished. It's on Netflix.
I checked that out. Good movie?
No, it's a series.
Oh, it's a series. I'm looking for a series. I just got through one.
Yes. Yeah, I thought it was pretty decent. At first I was like, it's a little convoluted for my tastes, but it all kind of comes together at the end. I just thought
Mhm.
that was kind of a funny coincidence, to see them paired up together, and then they have this long work history together afterwards. And
Yeah.
and not again, not just in movies and Netflix. They probably I don't know. They've probably done like stand up together, seen each other at award shows, industry events, stuff like that. Who knows?
Mhm.
Um, but I will also say what the funniest thing about Jon Stewart's appearance is that they cut to a clip of The Daily Show
Oh,
before he was on it.
yeah.
And I can now see why more people remember him as the host than Craig Kilborn, because no offense, Craig
Hypocrite.
Kilborn, and the low chance you're watching this, but you were no John. You didn't seem like you were as charismatic or funny as Jon Stewart was when he was the host, which is why I know he was on it for like 3 years. It's not like he was just on it for like 1 year. But it's probably why more people remember Jon Stewart than
Yeah.
Craig Kilborn as the host of The Daily Show. Other than that, my thoughts on the shows, Bob and Margaret looked ugly and unfunny. When it comes to ugly animated shows about a guy named Bob, it's no Bob's Burgers.
Yeah. I'm going to agree with you on a lot of those points. Since it was a VHS tape, I thought it was superb marketing. Because a lot of those shows I didn't even watch that they showed, you know. And I think when people look at shows, like you said, Jon Stewart, that's going to ring a bell, you know, and it's going to make people think about the Daily Show. He was like him and Colbert were kind of my favorite. The other guy I never watched. I didn't start watching the Daily Show until Jon Stewart came on board.
Did
Uh,
anyone?
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. So I thought that was a great marketing piece that they went out there and did. Um, but if I brought a VHS tape, or in this day and age, a DVD, or whatever we're using right now, I would feel kind of, I really don't care about these shows. If I cared about these shows, I'd go over to the other shelf and pick these up and take them home with me. I think they should have focused on South Park, the importance or the comedic value of watching South Park. I would have been kind of pissed, kind of, to be honest. Like I didn't buy this to be introduced to all of this, but it was marketing genius.
If you can't get enough comedy on our air, why not visit us online at ComedyCentral.com, with our great games, contests, and original humor you might just download in your pants. So look us up. We're always open at ComedyCentral.com.
Okay, so That's pretty much just kind of a typical commercial you'd see in between commercial breaks. Like it's edited like a commercial from the 90s.
Mhm.
Again, typical silly comedy music. You know, yeah, yodeling. Why not? It's goofy, it's wacky. Um, did notice that they mostly focused on South Park in that website ad, like just only brief flashes of any other shows. I will also say I'm surprised they had reruns of The Tick
Yeah,
um on Comedy Central because that's like a children's family show and they don't usually have like children's family stuff on Comedy Central.
yeah, yeah.
Uh
There were reruns that had like Lucy and stuff like that on Comedy Central.
yeah.
When I used to do websites, I'd let it play in the background sometimes. And actually, that's how I would get into certain shows.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and me too. It can be, that. Yeah, I also like to just play stuff in the background while I do my work because I work remotely.
Mhm.
But it is just kind of something. Just thinking of this commercial in and of itself, it's just kind of something that would be on during the commercials that you'd go, okay,
Yeah, yeah. But this is a VHS tape, correct?
it is. But makes sense. They need to push their brand as much as possible.
True. No argument for me on that. No argument for me on that. But yeah, I just think, and this is me just being a consumer, that's why I'm kind of happy that the 90s era of marketing has gone away is because they would take every opportunity to push everything under your nose, in as short a time as possible. It's like McDonald's wouldn't sell you just the Big Mac, they would sell you everything that they had on the menu at the same time. Now I think advertising has become more focused. Would you disagree or agree?
No, I would agree.
After 20 years, Viva Variety, the most celebrated television show in European history, finally lands on American soil. And there are the hosts, Mr. and the former Mrs. LaPointe, with sidekick Johnny Blue Jeans and the swimsuit squad on the way to their press conference.
Viva Variety has everything. Big celebrities. Gorgeous rock stars.
And bizarre displays of humanity.
Now, I have a question for you. Why did you raise so many microphones? Oh.
Viva Variety, Tuesday nights at 10, only at Comedy Central.
All right. I'm a sucker for showbiz, satires, mockumentaries, fake variety shows, stuff like that. Like, I'm watching that and I'm like, okay, I don't think this would be Emmy-winning television, but I could see myself just sort of watching that and being fairly entertained. The big twist at the end that there was one reporter was pretty chuckle-worthy. Yeah, even with the Boris Natasha accents that they had, like
Mhm.
I said, yeah, yeah, it looks like this could be a modestly entertaining show.
Mhm. I don't even remember it. It looks good. I like those types of shows. I could definitely see myself pulling away from a computer to go sit down and watch a few minutes of it as a break. I just don't remember it. Um, like I said, during that time period when I was like working on websites and doing media work, I would actually just leave the TV on, pick either sci-fi or Comedy Central, whatever my mood was, because it's nothing new usually, especially during the daytime. And I would just, every once in a while there would be a show that would catch my attention. I just never saw that show because that would definitely catch my attention.
Yeah, but again, yeah, it looks like it could be a fun enough little show. Yeah, shame I haven't heard about it until now. I will also say I did notice, I think it's from the same people who made The State and would go on to make Stella and Wet Hot
Mhm.
American Summer and other shows like that. I will say it's kind of fun seeing Michael Ian Black just put on an
Mhm.
accent, do something different than he normally does, which is just kind of like sarcastic guy.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
so he,
It's entertainment has shifted gears. I think going back to South Park, and this is going to sound bat-ish crazy, but going back to South Park, I think the kids that actually watched it, even though because it came on at 10 o'clock at night, I believe, except like on weekends, when they did like reruns. But it came on at 10 o'clock at night, I believe. And, I think in a strange roundabout way, it kind of taught kids a little bit about the realities of life. In a strange way, not so much Kenny dying every other episode, but just how we deal with things in real life, as adults. Does that sound bad? It's crazy.
No, no, you have a point, but this show I don't think really did that. It just looked like it was something for a goof. But no,
Yeah, yeah.
no, you're right. South Park does have fairly good social commentary and definite and taught and might have actually taught people like different aspects, of life.
Mhm.
Same with the same with the Simpsons. Not so much Beavis and Butthead. Beavis and Butthead actually almost got canceled because a kid learned the wrong thing from it. I don't know if you remember this, but like a kid saw Beavis and or Butthead, I think it was Beavis, set something on fire, um, and like they decided to try to play with fire themselves, and like the parent blamed Beavis and Butthead and not her parenting for
Yeah. Oh, look at Bobby playing with the matches.
yeah. In fact, parents had that complaint about South Park that people
Hmm.
were, that their kids were watching it, and it was like making them say all these nasty things. That was the basis for the plot of South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut,
Hmm.
which has a vocal cameo by Mike Judge, who created Beavis and Butthead.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that
Is it?
also, yeah,
No, go ahead.
that also shows how things have changed. Because like I'm sure there are still parents who, blame TV and video games for, for their kids' behavior when they misbehave and not their
Themselves.
parent, yeah, not themselves. But like stories about that were running rampant in the 90s.
Yeah.
And, when that happens nowadays, if it happens nowadays, the media doesn't really focus on it.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. It's funny that you bring that up because there were so many lawsuits. I have this big thing with self-responsibility. I've always had it. I think it's something that I've talked about for like a week at a time on Church of Real Talk. Self-responsibility is so very important. When you have shows like this, Beavis and Butthead, especially South Park, The Simpsons at sometimes, there comes a point where as a parent, you have to take self-responsibility. Sitting your child in front of a TV screen while you go about your day might not be the best case scenario, especially if you as a parent have actually watched TV. And in the 90s, it was rife with lawsuits of people not taking self-responsibility. Remember the hot coffee incident from McDonald's? It's like you felt the cup. There's a good chance that it might be a little bit more than warm. How can you sue a company for you not using good judgment?
Yeah, I know. And it was actually kind of just like a huge, it was also kind of like why so many, I think, comedians whose shtick was
Hmm.
basically like, you know, how like the world is so stupid, everyone is so stupid was like such a popular thing in not just the 90s, but like the 80s itself. Like, the 80s is sort of like the time where George Carlin started making that more his act and well, he was
Hmm.
more quaint. back in the 70s. And
Right.
that's just one example amongst many. There's Sam Kinison, Bill Hicks, Dennis Leary, etc. All those guys whose acts are like, everyone and everything is so stupid. Why is everyone and everything so stupid? That was like,
South Park took that same mentality.
Mhm.
It kind of pointed out the, using your words, the stupidity that was going on in society. It's like this is common sense. But back to what we were saying originally, it's like, how can you blame someone else when you've got your child in front of the TV at 10 o'clock at night?
Yep, that's true. And yeah, thankfully it isn't as much of a talking point now, but nowadays parents are complaining if they see just an implication that a character in a Disney movie might be gay.
I don't know what is wrong with the cancel culture because, comedy has always been based on people's viewpoints, how they see the world as far as being a comedian, and how the world actually interacts with them. Here's the deal. I grew up in New York City, so you learn very quickly that you need to respect and accept diversity. You just need to, or you're not going to get through New York City. In fact, don't you? I
I
think
do.
you, yeah, there you go. So you learn very early on, either that or you become a really good fighter. Okay? You have to accept diversity. And with that being said, the flip side of that is you have to accept the fact that people don't always agree with you. But here's the thing. You don't have to watch them. You don't have to buy tickets to their shows. You don't have to buy their records. You don't have to do anything that is going to propel this person further. So this person will have their fan base that understands, like Dennis Leary. They will have their fan base where people will buy tickets, go to shows, do what they go, watch the TV show, whatever. You don't have to do that, but you don't have to cancel someone just because you don't agree with their viewpoints. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and again, South Park, speaking of adult animated comedies, there was a show called Duckman. Uh,
Mhm.
and one of the most famous moments of that show, Duckman actually reran on Comedy Central, uh,
Oh,
is like a moment where Duckman gives off this big speech about why it's important for comedy to push buttons, but also, and make you think, and but also like, you can like choose what you want, what you like and what you don't like.
right. Right.
But with that being said, let us go on to the next ad.
Hello, mon ami, Monsieur Le Pen here with my beautiful former wife with a message about, but by no means a commercial for, Viva Variety brand cigarettes.
The only cigarette endorsed by the Heart and Lung Association of the Philippines.
We've noticed that you cannot smoke anywhere in America, churches or hospitals. It is psychotic. But you can still smoke on TV. We just can't legally recommend Viva Variety brand cigarettes' rich European flavor. That's old country nicotine.
In Europe, you can sell anything you want to on TV. Guns, grass, lewds, babies. But here, if I even implied that smoking Viva Variety cigarettes was like two heaped lungs of satisfaction dipped in sunshine, they would nail my ass to a cross on the cover of People magazine.
The secondhand smoke's as good as the first. So we're taking this opportunity to warn you against the cigarette of choice for myself, Agatha, former U.S. President John Wayne, and the entire swimsuit squad.
Smoking's bad. We're bad.
Only the good die young, right, ladies?
And kids, if you keep buying carton after carton of Viva Variety cigarettes, somebody's gonna win a free bumper pool party with everybody's friend Nico, the woodchuck who smokes.
We can't afford to give away this much fun. So remember, do not smoke Viva Variety brand cigarettes. They're bad for you, and they'll kill you.
And ladies, do not smoke new extra sexy Viva Slims, even though they are nature's perfect appetite suppressant.
I think this skit is in and of itself pretty amusing and funny. Like just the concept that they're promoting they're saying not to smoke, but they're actually promoting it. They're underhandedly promoting it, and also them thinking John Wayne was the president was also pretty chuckle-worthy. I think it's a funny skit placed in the wrong place. I think if I was just watching Viva Variety, I would be like laughing my ass off. But watching it on the South Park compilation tape, I'm just thinking, okay, you just ran an ad for the show. This show looks funny, but it's enough. Now it's starting to overstay its welcome. I just want to watch South Park.
Right, right, right. I agree with you completely. However, it was funny, and I'm actually going to look up Viva Variety, see if I can get that someplace. But it doesn't belong in something that has historically been marketed as a children's show. I mean, you know, after I think like season 5, it seemed like they advertised it for children to watch it.
I'm not sure about that. I'm just thinking like, like it's like very late on into the VHS, and it's just like, okay, after a while it's like, okay, now it's done. Okay, now I'm tired of hearing about Comedy Central's other shows. I just want to watch South Park.
Yeah, where's episode 1 at? What are we doing here? No, I agree with you. I agree with you. You'll have to excuse me, for laughing while that clip was playing. Hopefully that
Oh
doesn't come
no.
through.
No, I think the skit itself is funny.
Mm,
It's just like, you know,
a bit much.
yeah, just putting
Yeah,
it there.
yeah, a bit much. Unlike DVDs where you can just hit a button and fast forward past all of that, I think we've been a few minutes into it before we even got into what we purchased the VHS tape for. We've been bombarded with commercials for everything else but South Park.
Yeah. I mean, we've had some South Park ads. It's just I just want to go down and I just want to, it's just like it's enough.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. Um, how did they get away with that even in the 90s? Because that's when the big smoking thing. Because I'm from the generation where you could actually, they had smoking rooms in hospitals where you can go down in the waiting room and smoke a cigarette, and you didn't have to leave a bar in New York. You just sat right where you were at and you smoked a cigarette. So I did come through at that age, but during this time period, this is when everybody was smoking is bad. Don't smoke, especially children. And for them to actually put that into, I guess, a commercial, I think they were actually asking for trouble. Yeah, no, I don't know.
And now a fireside chat with the creators of Comedy Central South Park, Matt Stone and Trey Parker.
Hi, I'm Trey Parker.
And I'm Matt Stone.
This here's old Scratch.
Say hi, old fella. We do a show called South Park.
Matt and Trey, tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Well, I met Matthew at the University of Colorado, where I was going to film school. I actually met him in beginning filmmaking class. I met him and found someone who could make me laugh, even when I felt like crying.
Guys, who would you say are your role models?
Well, I think I'd have to say my biggest role model is Matt.
I guess I'd have to say mine is Theodore Roosevelt for his work with the Rough Riders in the Spanish-American War.
Matt and Trey, tell us about this episode.
This episode is called Cartman Gets an Anal Probe, and it's our favorite episode. In it, Cal's baby brother Ike gets abducted by aliens, and Cartman has strange things implanted in his ass.
I think that the reason that this episode is, well, old Scratch's favorite anyway, is because it's the only episode that Matt and I animated completely by ourselves. You see, this was the pilot episode, done before we had a series, so Matt and I had to do the whole thing by ourselves. For several months, we were locked into a cold, dark, little room for long periods of time.
You know, that kick the baby game looks like fun. Have you guys ever played it personally?
Well, neither Trey or I have children.
That's right. The only family we have is each other and old Scratch here.
We're not married yet.
We can't even get dates. But the truth is, until we have children, we're not going to know whether or not we're going to kick them.
You guys seem to write alien encounter material with a certain, knowledge. Have either of you actually ever been abducted?
Trey, it's okay. Go ahead and tell.
I grew up very near to South Park, and so I was abducted when I was a small child. I remember the experience. I remember how horrible it was. I remember too much. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Cartman gets an anal probe.
Well, that was the last thing before the episode proper began, and I think it's the funniest thing. I loved the sort of just how it was like a parody of like those old fireside chats, like the 70s, but there's like this off-kilter vibe throughout with them, just look like getting creepier and creepier, and their answer just getting stranger and stranger, and how it seems like they barely seem to want to be there. The dog changing breeds all the time is hilarious. Yeah, that was really a good way to kick off the episodes.
I liked it. I kind of remember that clip. I think they showed it on Comedy Central. I'm almost positive they showed it on Comedy Central. Or that could have been the days that I used to go online and get stuff. I'm not going to talk about that too much. But I know I definitely saw that clip, and it still holds its comedic value. You know, I think I laughed the same amount that I laughed when I first saw it. Yeah, they're great. Those two guys are great. They've actually started a conversation with, I guess, the world, you know, with their political statements, with their societal statements. They actually, you know, they gave a lot, believe it or not. I think they actually, South Park gave a lot that we can't, you know, deny that they brought to the table.
Yeah. So anyway, the time has come for stay through the previews or skip to the feature. By that I mean stay through these previews specifically, not just previews in general. And there were the Viva Variety ad was funny. The intro ad with Nan Trey was hilarious. And the Viva Variety skit would be funny if it was just on Viva Variety. Not so much here. Everything and the rest of the ads were just okay, though the ad showing everything that wasn't South Park that was new on Comedy Central kind of, besides maybe Dr. Katz, kind of proved why South Park was the most popular thing on Comedy Central. Even the Daily Show even the Daily Show scenes showed why that show didn't really take off until Jon Stewart came. So I'm gonna end again. Everything else didn't really capture my interest that much, so I'm just gonna have to say skip to the feature.
Skip to the feature. I'm definitely with you on that. I'm definitely with you on that. I would have pressed that. What are they doing? Streaming networks, lead intro or start show immediately?
Fast forward.
Yeah, fast forward. Whatever you do. On a VHS tape, it's kind of hard because you got to find that spot.
Yeah. But yeah, Too bad. This might be the first VHS compilation tape that I say skip to the feature to. Because The Simpsons and Power Rangers promos were just passable enough to say, yeah, I'd sit through them.
Mm.
But anyway, thank you again for coming on, Lewis. Do you have anything to plug?
Well, Church of Real Talk, but I'm in the process of starting a new YouTube channel. I got a couple of videos up on it already. Coffee and pop culture, you know. And this is just an ask of you. One day, I want to have you on it. I actually want to have you on it. The only thing is you don't have to drink coffee. It's just what I do all day long. How's that sound?
Yeah, I'll definitely keep it in mind.
Yeah.
Though for now,
For
um,
now.
for now, February is a bit of a busy month for me, so I'm gonna take a bit of a break from VHS era.
Hmm.
And when I come back in March, we will be doing The Wizard of Oz. But in February, if I have the time,
Hmm.
I will
Reach
do
out.
maybe an episode or two of a new podcast I'm thinking of,
Mhm.
which is called I I loved this movie. I didn't. Where a guest and I engage in a conversation of a singular movie we have
Cool.
differing opinions about. Um, but again, I again, that is a maybe I'll do that starting next month. And I'll see you later, everyone.
Come on down to South Park and meet some friends, man.